Welcome back to the Fundamentals Podcast, where we talk anything related to sports, mostly sports, but anything related to it. And we give our opinions from a fan standpoint. Adrian is not with us this episode, but he will be back on the next one, I promise. Um, so, first thing I want to talk about is the Caitlin Clark thing. Right off the rip, I want to talk about what's going on, why people feel like, you know, the other players are being more aggressive to her. We've seen Angel Reese go through the same things this year. Um, Look, this being aggressive with rookies, this is not just a women's thing. This happened with many other players in men's basketball as well. This is not a, you know, she's, you know, the best. I mean, I've seen people calling it racism. That is ridiculous. It's not racism. It's not the black players aren't racist against her because she's white. Um, Look, let's call a spade a spade. Anytime that you are at that level of pro and you are deemed the best and the whole world thinks of you as the best, you're going to get some pushback from your peers. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Jordan went through it. Magic Johnson went through it. Larry Bird went through it. Like this is not a it's not a because she's white and a phenom that they're being like this to her. It's also not women being haters. Oh, let me fix this mic real quick. My bad, my bad, my bad. Let me get this. Let me get it going. Let me get it going. All right. Yes. No, that is not it. I just think that anytime that you have been deemed the best at that level, and you're new, you're gonna get that. Like they're gonna check you. They want to know. They want to see. They want to see what it's all about. You're gonna get that, man. And I think you just don't see it as much anymore in men's basketball because all of these players have played each other in AAU. The younger ones, they've seen each other in AAU. They're usually friends. They hang out. They work out together in the off season. I mean, you got a few that dislike each other, like Draymond Green and Rudy Gobert. But overall, for the most part, in men's basketball, they're pretty much all friends, right? So women's basketball, yeah, you got some AAU stuff, but it's not at that level. It's not the same way as it is for men's, obviously, But I think the magnifying the magnifying glass on Caitlin Clark is so huge that everything gets so blown out of proportion. Um, I do agree with what Matt Barnes said in terms of protecting your asset, her teammates needing to step up and do more in terms of protecting her and standing by her side. I do agree with that because she is the best player on that team and she is the number one pick. She's the rookie and she's the future of the team. Of course, you want to protect that. But to act like this is only happening to Caitlin Clark, this has only ever happened to her, that is no, it's just not true. It's just not the facts. Um, Obviously, it's something to talk about. So the media is going to do what the media is going to do. It's something to talk about. It has me talking about it. And I've enjoyed the product that I've seen on the court this year in WNBA, and not just from watching Indiana Fever. I've enjoyed watching other teams, the Sparks and Chicago and Phoenix. Like I've enjoyed watching other WNBA teams play this year. You know, Obviously, Caitlin Clark was the draw. Yes, we know that. We're aware of that. But again, like I said, last episode, I talked about it. Caitlin Clark's not that big. Obviously, we saw what she's able to do with the 3-point shooting, her efficiency, but she turns into this thing only after the you can't see me thing with Angel Reese. Like that turned into a huge headline, which uh was very effective with the media turning Angel Reese into the villain and having Caitlin Clark be the hero, right? the villain won in the end of that season, right? Not last year, but the year before, where LSU won it all, right? But we have to stop making it seem like this is some new thing where women did not do this. Yeah, maybe not to this level in the past, but this is definitely happened. If you can't say, you got to be a little bit realistic. If you can't say that you've ever watched Diana Taurasi in the beginning of her career, she faced some things too, right? So it's not it's a different level of basketball. It's coming from college. You're going to the WNBA, right? And that's all I can say about that, right? That I get it. It's about ratings. It brings ratings, and that's fair, right? But I don't know, man. It's starting to get overwhelming a little bit. It's driving me away because I'm like, can we talk about the other teams and talk about some of the other rookies? A little bit, just get it in there a little bit. Um, we got that out the way. All right. So now let's talk about the finals. Let's talk about what we saw in the Western Conference Finals. The product on the court for Minnesota in that last game was like blah, right? Obviously, if you watched that game, you saw it, and you knew right after the first quarter. I could see clearly Minnesota was out of it after that. And they knew Luka Doncic was not playing no games. They saw immediately that this was going to be a hard day. Let's wrap it up. I initially I talked to my partner in this, and I text him and I said, "Hey man, I think Dallas wants to wrap this up. I think Luka wants to wrap this up." And he felt like Minnesota had one more in him. And I did tell him, I said, "Look, um, I believe Minnesota was content with the one win. I just think they didn't want to get swept, and they didn't get swept, and I think they were content with that. They obviously clearly came out flat, right?" Um, with that said, I don't think in the offseason that you dismantle this team. I don't think you do anything to this team besides add a couple pieces that you can add. Maybe a couple players can go, but your core, you keep it together. They obviously had a fantastic season this year, and they looked bad in the Western Conference Finals, right? We're talking about the Western Conference Finals. They didn't look bad all year. It wasn't a thing where they struggled through the playoffs and they just had a cush road. No, it was just bad against a really good team and Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, um, and Jason Kidd is the head coach who's been grown as a coach. Let's give Jason Kidd some credit. I don't think we mention him enough when we talk about the growth of a great coach. So with that team and what they faced, Minnesota, like for the most part, is a young team. We're talking about Anthony Edwards. And when you really look at it, a lot of the scrutiny that he faced this series, when you look at it, he was still really the best thing on the court for them, right? So going back to Karl Anthony Towns, I mean, he struggled all series. Gobert struggled. Defensively, and I don't know what he was doing taking the amount of shots that he took in those last two games of the series, because that's not even his game, the way they had him playing. So like, let's look at some coaching there. But yeah, we're talking about Minnesota and yeah, losing in the Western Conference Final, and are they going to be, redoing anything on this team? You absolutely should not be redoing anything on this team besides maybe dropping a couple players that didn't play or maybe had some health issues and adding a couple more pieces. But like I said, the core stays together, man. Bring it back, let them run it again, and see what happens. But they overall had a great year. Um, you know, when you looked at that game, obviously we saw Luca come out hot, right, immediately, right, and we saw just Minnesota be flat. But when you look at the overall game, obviously you knew Minnesota in the third quarter was done. I mean, we pretty much knew that game was over. But realistically, they still kind of fought, and I feel like Anthony Edwards still had life in that game. And I think he's going to grow from the whole experience. I mean, he's a really young player, and that might have that last game, in a sense, when you look at efficiently, that might have been his best one. I mean, obviously they got the win, the one win to not get swept, and that was a really solid game. That game still could have went either way. Um, but I think when you're facing a Luka Doncic, you can't he doesn't fold. You can't phase him. You're facing a Kyrie that's uh, got that veteran thing, but still plays at a high level. You got to think like this season, Kyrie career wise averages what 20 about 24 points a game career wise, right? 23, 24 points a game. You got to think this series or the playoffs in general, Kyrie has been better than we've seen him be during the season, right? And Kyrie obviously has been to this level before. So when you put that with Luka, obviously, you're going to get a great product because you're getting two players are not really phased by a lot. We could say in the past, Kyrie dealt with some things and things got in his head. But as of the last 2 years, man, Kyrie has just been a bomb ball player. He's just been doing his thing. And all the other noise that was going on with him prior to that, it's not been a thing. That's been, completely, whatever it is, you could say he's grown because people change, people grow, people have experiences. So, with that said, I mean, obviously we see how that's working out, but you know, Minnesota, regardless of how well or not well they played, um, you got to remember they played a really, really good Dallas Mavericks team. And I don't think people understood just how good the Mavs were until we could say the end of the OKC series, but this series showed right here, like, like, no, Luca is not, he ain't laying down for nothing. Neither is Kyrie. So, and it's not like we didn't know that Luca was a dog. We've known this. Like, this is not new. But at this level, like what we've been able to see, and especially in this last series, he is not taking no for an answer. And that makes this matchup against Boston really, really fun because Dallas is the underdog in this. People believe that Boston has more pieces. They got Herford, Porzingis, White, Jalen Brown, and Jason Tatum, right? They've been here before. Most of these players have been. They have the experience. Um, but historically, what we've seen, my big thing is historically what we've seen where Boston gets in these moments and somehow they crumble. Even though when they should win, they crumble. Like these moments seem like they get too big for them. And you know, and I'll say just historically since the Tatum Brown era, right? This is what we've seen. I don't know if it's Jalen Brown. I don't know if it's Jason Tatum. I don't know what it is, right? But we've seen it happen, even with making the finals. What I will say to that is, with Boston being picked to win, um, Dallas is the one team I believe. No, I in this playoffs, right? Because we've seen Minnesota knock Denver out. Denver would have been the other team that I would have said is the one team that can phase Boston mentally, but Dallas is that team as well, right? We see Dallas like Luca can get in your head because he's so confident, right? Like he's not phased by anything. Like that bothers people. Like that is a psychological thing. And what we have seen is in the sight games, in those games, Boston just doesn't handle it well. And I think it's the same thing when we talk about like with Jimmy Butler and Miami Heat, and when they would play Boston, Boston, like last year, Boston was supposed to win that series, but it's something about Jimmy Butler that Boston just does not figure it out. And I think that effect of Luka is going to do the same thing of Boston. Now, this is my opinion. Boston might get in there and wipe the floor with them, but that's why they play the games. So with that said, I think this is shaping up to be a really good series. I'm excited for it. At first, when they wrapped up the Western Conference Finals, I was like, "Cool, we got a break, right?" So it gives me some leeway to kind of do some other things. But then I got to thinking, like, "Hey, I'm kind of missing basketball. Like, I need something to talk about." Like obviously, I've been keeping up. It has me keeping up with the WNBA, and it has me keeping up with the NHL playoffs. Speaking of that, I'm recording this Sunday. What's it? Second, right? So tonight I'm gonna try to get this released tonight. But tonight, Dallas Stars plays the Oilers. Um, so I think that the Oilers are up this series 3-2. I would love to see the Dallas Stars win tonight and put it in a potential game seven, or put it in a game seven. So real quick, throwing some NHL out there for those that do not know. I think most people know. If you've seen anything I've done in the past, I do follow some hockey too. So that should be real good too. But yeah, man, getting back to this NBA thing, it's going to be an exciting series. I think game one is gonna be like a super chess match. Um and I mean I just don't from there, man, I don't know, because like I said, I'm banking on the idea that Luca and the whole team of Dallas, they're just so headstrong. I feel like they're so headstrong. I feel like I feel like Jason Kidd just has that team ready. Big up to Jason Kidd, man. Like they don't talk about his growth as a coach enough, in my opinion, man. Like that dude has like everywhere he goes, he makes something better, man. So obviously as a coach, when you win, it's your star player, but when you lose, it's your fault. So that's most of the time we know that's how that goes. But I think Jason Kidd needs his flowers. Obviously, he got an extension from the Mavs, which was big. I think they did a good job by doing that with him. Um, yeah, this is gonna be a great series, man. I can't say it enough. I'm excited to see it again. I'm banking on Dallas being so headstrong and Luca just being that guy to get into the heads of Boston. And I think that will be the deciding factor. I think the only team on Boston that just maintains being headstrong is Al Horford, and that comes with his years in the league. Now, I was wrong because I thought I was concerned when they played Indiana. I thought that Indiana was so young that without Porzingis, Al Horford would struggle. I thought he would be tired. Um, he proved me wrong. I was wrong about that. He played at a high level that whole series. So yeah, we'll see what happens, man. First game's coming up this week. Real quick before I get out of here, if you enjoy the show, man, like, subscribe, leave some comments. Um, Next episode. Also, if you checked out the last episode, you know that I did the Rams where I picked wins and losses. I looked at the roster, picked wins and losses. I'll do that again in August. If you want me to do your team, leave a comment. Let me know why, let me know it's your team or whatever team you want me to do. Also, on the next episode, I had a discussion, not really a discussion, but I brought up the question. I saw the question on Facebook, and I said to myself initially Kyrie. The question was who's better, Kyrie or Allen Iverson? Initially, I said Kyrie because I talked about like his efficiency shooting threes, right? And his percentage in terms of shooting. But also you have to take into account like the reason why Allen Iverson had to be a volume shooter. So that is the discussion that next time me and Adrian are on, that is a discussion that we would have. If you have anything you want to say to that, leave a comment, chime in, subscribe, and check us out in the future. All right. Peace.